Well, okay, maybe for listeners' benefit, let me just touch on the simple goals for SDG 11. I mean, it says that we should, we are looking at providing by 2030, providing access to safe and affordable housing, upgrade slums and informal settlements, improve urban planning and management. It's very clear that we are lacking the reducing disaster risk, protecting cultural and heritage and natural heritage that we have. I mean, our forts and castles. We have, our Ramsar sites, which has come into our conversation, and urban, enhancing urban environments, and which we've already started talking about. Let me start with safe and affordable housing. I think we've had a lot of talk about affordable housing, and we say that it's a sliding scale. I mean, if you, for instance, look at the kind of houses that we are providing these days in our urban areas. Let's look at all these very flashy apartments that is coming up. For instance, have we got a policy to make sure that housing is provided evenly to satisfy the various population, so that we don't have a lopsided housing provision? For instance, why should we have a lot more high-end housing and we do not have low-income housing? Can we legislate, for instance, and say that if you are developing high-end housing, because all these houses would have to be serviced, by gardeners and security men and cleaners and all of those things, should we mandate it to make sure that others also, when you are a developer, you provide to mitigate some of the problems that we are creating? I mean, if you study the development of slums, for instance, and it's not a very recent development or phenomenon. If you look at the whole of Laboni, cantonment area, when it was established, the slum of Apapa and those areas started. When Tema, as a settlement, developed, Ashaman developed. When you look at Accra Central as a huge bulk breaking area, when it developed, Sodom and Gomorrah, or what we call Old Fadama, and areas like Mensa Guinea developed. Now, so why is it that we start with policies to develop areas, but we do not come up with legislation and policies to mitigate, the ills that will come out of that,
and make the development more inclusive?
Make it more inclusive. So those are some of the things that we are talking about. And usually when we talk about risk, everybody talks about floods and all of those things, but those are not, in fact, the day-to-day risk that we face is sometimes even more very basic. Let me give a simple example. We have had people who have died being knocked down by cars when they went for jogging in the morning. If somebody in Tema bought a bicycle for his son, expecting that he should be able to ride a bike to school, and the child was knocked down by a vehicle. We have sidewalks, being taken over by kiosks and containers and all of those things. Those are the day-to-day risk that we face. We don't face floods 9 months, 12 months of the year. We face basic risks
every day.
I mean, look, I recently saw a fire near Redco area, and fire service was struggling to battle it. And and it's not just there. We have had even the former president J.J. Rawlings's house, got burnt from the fire service.
In
March
this year.
I mean, for a fire service, from fire service head office to Rawlins's house, possibly like some 3 minutes drive, and there was no water in the fire hydrants. So why do we worry about floods? Why can't we look at the the complementary infrastructure that supports our cities for it to be livable? Those are the things that we are looking at, and we have a lot of these policies sitting on the shelves and doing nothing about it. Look, we recently had some of these when the Ramsar sites, the demolition started, and there was this horrible message that came from a group of people who were petitioning government that this thing should not go on, and it was a very difficult look. We really share their pain that you've done all this construction and it is being demolished, but you see, they are just places where we should not construct. The Ramsar site, after Ghana signing on to the convention and making sure that we want to preserve these ecosystems and all of that, we get people doing construction right into the lagoon. If you look at Google Maps over the period of about 20 years, you realize that the spaces that allow the lagoon to evacuate into the sea and for the sea to be also come during high tide back into the lagoon is being constricted. So what it simply means is that if we do not stop it, over the next few years, we are going to have very heavy flooding upstream, including those people who build there. You can't even construct a sane septic tank.
Areas like even East Legon sometimes flood when it rains?
As for when it comes to floods, I mean, there are so many issues. Some could even be from infrastructure-induced flooding. I mean, after constructing debris, there were areas where we never had serious flooding until the debris, Adenta Highway and even the N1 was constructed. We haven't gone to look at, in terms of data, how the rate of stormwater collection has increased. And for instance, how do we even legislate for areas where stormwater collection has increased? Do we just allow them to continue paving? Because when land values increase, residential buildings convert to commercial. So offices, they are turning to offices, meaning that you have to park a bit more. And we do huge concrete paving. Can't we allow paving in such a manner that we can allow for percolation, of our driveways and things like that, and or even decide that we want to be able to tax those people more. When you decide that you are doing a change of land use, we should be able to tax you to be able to help carry out mitigation. Somebody shouldn't feel comfortable uphill and let another person suffer. So it is all very connected. We need to be able to come to the point where we look at data and infrastructure policy, legal framework, and all of that.